Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another installment of Jantmor interviews. I'm your host Josh, aka Jantmor, and today I'm speaking with the voice of Thor and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Marvel Heroes, most of the Marvel's Capcom games, Ultimate Alliance 3, and many other things. He's been Clayface in Batman Arkham City. He's Solomon Grundy in Justice League versus Teen Titans, Firebreak in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. The list can go on, but I'm beyond excited to be able to speak to the amazing, the humble, and talented Rick Wasserman. Welcome,
Wow.
Rick, to Jam.
Wow. I love that. Say that again. That was nice. No one's ever said that. You want to be my agent? How kind. How kind.
Welcome. How are you doing? How you doing today, Rick?
I'm well, thanks. Yeah, I'm good. I know it looks like I'm in a cave here. I'm in my booth, and I guess it's dark in here. It's dark. This is the life of a voiceover guy. We're just always in dark boxes all the time. It is weird. Yeah. I even told my wife, I said, at some point, I'm going to croak and they're going to stick me in a dark box. And going from one dark box to another dark box sounds pretty depressing. So I told her, I said, at some point, I'm going to need to spend some time outside of the box. And that's why, I do a lot of coaching and I do a lot of teaching. And that helps me kind of stay talking to people like yourself, because otherwise you could just be staring at a microphone all the time.
Right. Before I get into any of the questions, I would just like to say it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be speaking to you today. I'm a huge fan of your work. I mean, your Thor is freaking legendary. I don't care who voices Thor. Your Thor is the OG. I really people could find me on it and we could debate all day about it. Let's go. I really love your Thor. It's freaking fantastic. You've just done so many cool roles that I'm really excited to dive into today. So I'm really, really glad to be able to bring you on and speak to you. So thank you so much.
Man, that's really kind of you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Some cool things I found out about you while researching some topics to talk about is that you are an amateur magician. I was about to say musician, magician.
Yeah. I've been doing magic for a long time. When I was a little kid, I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and my father used to take me to a place called Colon, Michigan, and that is supposed to be the magic capital of the world. And as a little kid, used to go there, and I couldn't really do anything. I had some tricks that kind of performed themselves. I didn't have any skills or anything. And then flash forward many, many, many years, I'm an adult, and I'm working at a theater in Malibu, and I play Houdini. And I know in order to play Houdini that I'm going to have to learn how to do some magic. So I get a coach. I get a couple coaches, kind of sleight of hand stuff, and I just start learning magic as an adult, kind of fulfilling all of my childhood magic fantasies. And I still do it. Before the pandemic, for the past decade, I go to a hospital and I read to children. And of course, a lot of these kids, it turns out, they don't speak English. So my reading to them, not that it couldn't be comforting and fun, but sometimes they don't know what I'm saying. But magic, you don't always have to talk. I can just make things appear or make it right. So, so I wound up doing a lot more magic. So going to the hospital and engaging with these kids is also good magic practice. So, magic is also a good thing that when I'm in the booth, I have a little bit of time. Uh, it takes me 10, 15 minutes to do a promo. And then when I come out, I probably have another 10 or 15 minutes before I have to go back in. And in that amount of time, I can practice some magic. So it's a good hobby for me. It fits well.
That's so cool. I mean, you got the magician beard going. You got that ancient one Shazam.
That's exactly what I was going for. Yeah, I think I've got I don't know. I have aging Kenny G look right now. I'm not sure what this is. This is my. The pandemic happened and I hadn't gotten my hair cut in a little while, and then I just didn't cut it. That's how you grow your hair. It turns out you just don't cut it, right? And I actually learned through YouTube how to cut hair. I cut my two sons' hair. I cut my wife's hair, but no one cut my hair. So I've just kept it up and not cut it. So now I look like this. I look like, Gandalf.
Rocking that look. Another thing I found out was that you have a rose tattoo on both of your arms, one on your right and one on your left.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Who you been talking to? Like the FBI? That's some deep digging.
I told you when I go with my research, I go in, and I
Go
found out
deep.
that you have on your right arm your rose tattoos on your elbow, and then on your left arm your rose tattoo is on your bicep.
What is up? Yes, that's cuckoo. Yeah, I have. Let's see. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
rose tattoo right there, and then this. Let's see if I turn it upside down. That's a lion. I was in The Lion King on Broadway for many years, so I've got my lion tattoo. You don't have to get the lion tattoo in order to be in the show. I just got it because I liked it. Uh, but yes, I have a lot of tattoos. That's another thing that happens. You spend a lot of time in a dark box doing voiceover. You start thinking of interesting ways to entertain yourself, like permanently inking your flesh, and that is exactly what I have done. Yeah, got a lot of that.
Do the roses have a story to them? Because I know when some people get tattoos, there's like a story like, oh, this dancing tulip is because of I was 4 years old and I ate a tulip or something. I don't know, something weird like that. But do they have a story?
Yeah, all of my tattoos have a story. I like to think of myself as sort of like a piece of traveling luggage. People used to get, stickers and stamps and stuff and patches on luggage to show where they've been. And that's pretty much what I have. So like here, I'll give you an example. I don't know how much of this you could see. Okay, that is it's a
Whoa.
monkey, and there's an X-ray, and inside is an apple. So
Oh,
yeah, so monkey, apple, X-ray is MAX, and that's my son Max, right? And so
stop.
look,
You just broke my brain. Hold
uh,
on.
look, and on this side, I've got a skeleton. This is hard to see. A skeleton and an alligator and the moon. So SAM is Sam as my other son. So yeah, all the tattoos I have meaning. I don't really have any tattoos just for decoration. They all mean something.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. That's ugh. I'm sorry. That just kind of like my brain just went like that's really cool because my
Oh,
mom
good.
has um a couple of tattoos. I've never asked her the stories about them, but she has a I think she has like a tiger. She has a tiger tattoo. I know that for sure because I've seen it. I don't know
Hmm.
the story behind it, but she was thinking about getting a tattoo for me and my brother, but I don't think she ever got it. But I think the tiger represents it. I don't know.
Well,
I
it's
don't know. Never
never
asked
never
that.
too late. Never too late. Go get tattoos.
To go into my first question for you, sir, is what is one word you would use to describe your childhood environment?
My childhood environment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a great question. I guess I would say fertile. There's a great word. Yeah, fertile, right? Like all the conditions were there for me to become who I am now. And listen, I don't know if we're ever 100% satisfied with who we are, but I'm 47 now and I'm pretty happy with who I am. And I think I've gotten as far as I've gotten because my environment was fertile with provocations, with things to make me think, for things to me for me to be curious about, just kind of the right combinations of things. My parents were always supportive of any of the weird things I was not weird, but at the time, fairly strange for a guy like me. Like when I was very, very young, like 6 years old, thinking I started at 6, I got really into makeup. And I'm still into makeup. I love makeup. Not so much beauty makeup, but character makeup, grease paint. And I was a big fan and still am of Lon Chaney and Rick Baker and Dick Smith, these incredible artists, and they just let me do it. Whatever allowance I had, I spent on grease paint and nose putty and created and played and played and played. And whenever I came up with characters and stuff, they took pictures and they encouraged it. So yeah, it was a fertile environment for me to become me.
That makes me really happy to hear because sometimes, that's the case with a lot of people. Sometimes their parents have a set thing that they want them to do, and sometimes they're just like very anti or against it. I remember I was talking to I don't know if you know who this is, but I'm pretty sure it was Mark Ralston, who's the
Hmm.
voice of Deathstroke, and he's been in like Aliens and Shawshank Redemption, those movies. And I spoke to him, and he was like, when I told my dad that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, he was like, "You're joking? Are you kidding me?" And
Mm,
he was like, "Well, I'm gonna prove you wrong," and he has. I mean, he's very successful, and I'm glad that he did.
yeah.
But I'm just glad that you had an environment like me where your ideas were supported. And some things, silly things. Like I remember I told my mom I wanted to be a taxi driver. She shut that down immediately. So, but I'm just glad that you had an amazing, environment to help grow and cater to who you are today. And I'm really glad you're happy with yourself, because that's another thing. Like some people are not happy with themselves. They're just very always down on themselves. And it's always good to want to, try and boost yourself up and change things about yourself that you don't like, but you don't have to
That's
like
right.
hate yourself. It's a sad thing that some people go through. So that makes me really happy to hear that you're
Yeah.
happy with how
It's,
your life is. And that's
like they always say, it's a journey. I'm learning, like post-pandemic now is a new chapter. See what comes up. I don't know. And maybe that's okay not to know. It's exciting, it's really exciting.
How did you adjust to the pandemic when it first hit, or were you set already?
Well, interestingly, um, my we all lived near Malibu. Um, Between Malibu and Calabasas is this little tiny community called Montanito. It's great. It's this little hidden away place, like the Bat Cave. Like nobody knows where this thing is, and it's great. There's a lot of great voiceover people that live in there because it's so quiet. It's the perfect place to do voiceover. My wife was a school teacher for 12 years, and then we started homeschooling our children, and then uh, so they were home with us. I record from home. My wife started working for a company that helps facilitate homeschooling for other families. She worked from home. So when the pandemic showed up and they said stay at home, well, that wasn't such a big deal for us. You know, where we lived was quiet and filled with these big state parks surrounding us, which you can go into. So staying put was not as dynamic a shift for us as we know it was for many other people. Also, for voiceover, it did have an effect, of course. I've done quite a bit of animation and video games, but my bread and butter in the industry, and I didn't choose this. I always find that the industry sort of chooses you. Uh, has been promo. I'm in voice of several networks in my life, and if the shows aren't being made anymore, there's no promos to do. So I found that started happening. Like, oh, the work is drying up. Uh, Interestingly, just before the pandemic hit, I started working on this other business. I have an engineer who's always, built my studios and fine-tuned them all the time. His name is George Whittam. Listen, any voiceover person watching this knows George Whittam. They call him George the Tech. He's the engineer to the stars. He works with everyone. His first big client was Don LaFontaine. And if you don't know who he has passed, but he was like he was the trailer voice, the guy who created like One Man in a World This Summer. That was Don. Created that. That was all him. And and George was his engineer and became my engineer. Anyway, I had been doing voiceover for at least a solid decade, not doing anything else. And I'm a trained theater actor, got my MFA, that's what I like to do. And I hadn't done any because, voiceover was demanding, especially because doing promo work, you're always in the booth. There's always another promo to record. And I told my wife, I have to get back on stage or I'm going to drive you and the children crazy. And I've got to do this. So I had to come up with a way to record wherever I might do voiceover at any time. Even if there was a studio nearby a theater, well, what if they're closed? What if they're full? So I needed something reliable. So George and I built a booth, like a portable booth that we could take places. And the first one we made was really big. We had to ship it, but it worked. I spent an entire summer in Colorado doing theater, and the network that I was the voice of at the time, which was AMC, didn't even know I was gone. I mean, it just sounded like me at home. So that really opened the doors. So George and I created this product called the Tri Booth, and it is a portable booth that now the thing fits in a duffel bag, and it's brilliant. Now I could do voiceover anywhere I want. I could travel. I could go on a vacation. And then it turned out that someone else saw this booth in New York. They went, "What is that?" And I said, my travel booth, and they went, "I'll buy it." I said, "Oh, well, it's it's not for sale." And he went, "Listen to me, make it so I can buy it." I went, "Oh, okay." So I made him one, and he bought it. And then another person bought it. And George and I looked at each other like, other people might want this. So we started making them, and now it's another business. Now, this happened just before the pandemic. And as soon as the pandemic hit, you couldn't go into a studio anymore. And people needed a studio. So they started buying the Tri Booth, not to travel, but to stay at home. So that's that. In fact, I'm in my Tri Booth clothes right now. I'm kind of in like a mechanic onesie because that's what I've been doing all day. I just build booths, and I have to say, I'm interested in this chapter of my life. It's always been very artistic, theater and makeup and magic and all this kind of storytelling. But this is just working with my hands, just building something. It's new to me, and I'm enjoying it. So anyway, that's a very roundabout way of answering your question, but I'm sure the answer was in there somewhere.
No, that's so cool that you started something based off of something you and your friend made. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's neat.
I know a lot of people. I asked because I know a lot of people were like, I think I was talking to Tom Gibbs. He was like, when the pandemic hit, he was like, oh gosh, I have to get ready. Like I'm kind of lost. Like he had to call people because it was like a thing that changed immediately. So I'm glad that you were able to shift into it already. So like you said, it already sounded like you were like in the zone already. So it didn't really matter. That's kind of me too. Like when they said, "Hey, y'all stay home," I was like, "I don't really go out anyway, so okay, fine, I guess." But then it got longer and longer. I was like, "All right, I real
Yeah,
quick." But
exactly. That's
I'm
just right. I mean, I think I was never like a terribly social guy. I always wanted to be. Like, it'd be great to just go to parties and have my 1,000 friends. I just don't. So, and probably being in a booth alone for so many years hasn't helped that. Uh, but, but yeah, I it wasn't like I was like I realize we are, as a species, we are social animals and we need to talk to people. And I figured that out. And that is why I coach. That is half the reason why I teach now, is just to have contact with people. Because, like I said, it'd be very easy for me to have no contact. So now, like I run, I'm a runner. And now I've started only recently asking some neighbors if they'd like to run with me. This is very hard for me to do. Like, listen, I know you don't know who I am, and I know I look, insane, but you want to run with me? And some people do. So trying to reach out a little bit.
That's good. Real quick, I'm sorry. Can you hear like thunder and lightning in the back,
I
or is
can. Is
it?
that what that is?
Okay, yeah, that's there. Sorry, yeah, it's raining. Like it's been raining all week in Georgia, so
Oh, wow.
yeah. Sorry about that.
No, in
Yeah.
LA, we haven't heard rain in a long time, so I don't mind.
Is what you're doing now what you wanted to do since you were a little kid, or has that evolved?
It has evolved. I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. You know how adults ask kids that all the time? Hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I think it's a stupid question. Forgive me. I just think it's dumb. Like, listen, when you're a little kid, your job is to be a little kid and to play and explore and dream and make mistakes and learn. That's all. Don't worry about what's next. Don't worry about, if you're in the third grade, don't worry about the fourth grade. If you're in the fourth grade, don't worry about the fifth grade. When you're in high school, don't worry about, just spend a little time just focusing on what you're doing now. I think we're calling that mindfulness these days. Just concentrate on now. But I think it's so important. So when I was a kid, I don't know what I wanted to do. I heard that a lot. I think, I wanted to be a chef. Like, I like to cook. And I did. I went to chef school, but I know I didn't ever work in a restaurant. I can cook now. Uh, I wanted to be on, I wanted to be an actor. And so, that's what I did. In fact, when I was in college, I had a girlfriend at the time, and when college was almost over, she's like, "What are you going to do next?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to do." And she goes, "There are some auditions coming up soon to get into graduate schools. I'm going to do it." And I went, "I'm going to do that too." I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. And I did, and I got no graduate school. And for me, that just gave me 3 more years to think about it. What am I going to do? You know what? I'm not prepared to do anything. I can do makeup. I can do a little magic. I can cook. I mean, what am I going to do? And so life just sort of happened to me where I auditioned and got into some good shows and met some good people. And by the way, my voice has always sounded like this, like my voice changed early. One day I talk like this and the next day I talk like this. And everyone for my whole life has always been saying, wow, that voice, you should do something with that voice. But I never even thought about doing anything with it. And then at some point, I think it was in graduate school. So I'm already an adult, and we took a little voiceover weekend class. And I thought I could probably do this. If it comes to it, I could do this. And then I wound up doing it. Uh, so, am I doing what I thought I would be doing? Yeah, kinda. I mean, I'm kind of an actor. I'm kind of a cook. I'm kind of a musician. I thought I would have a family, and I have a family. So yeah, it's not way out of the pocket. I think I'm kind of doing it, and I think that I have more things I want to do. It's just more things I'm interested in. What I'm real hot on right now is I've been watching that TV show Alone. Have you watched that?
I feel like
It's
I've
where they
heard
take
about
people
that.
and throw them out in the wilderness,
I've heard
and
about
like for
that.
100 days they give them $1 million.
Yes.
Just the idea of kind of connecting to the planet, which is so not who I've been. I've only been a guy surrounded by technology and that kind of thing. But the idea of it is so attractive to me. Like, what if I just didn't surround myself with things you could plug in? What if I really unplugged and tried that? I don't know anything about it except what I've seen on TV, but I'm interested. And so maybe that's another chapter I have. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing that I got out of the pandemic was that I've just loved going outside more. I've always loved going
Mm,
outside because I do need to. I think it's really important to at least go for a walk a little bit, walk around your neighborhood. So I do go
absolutely.
for walks around my neighborhood and hear the birds chirp. I mean, I bring my phone to listen to music. I need to stop doing that. I need to put my phone in the house because I'm always listening to music and I'm not listening to things around me, which can be dangerous. But
No, no, no.
I would like to hear the birds chirping and the leaves falling and stuff like that. Like that's just so cool to me. Me and my friends used to take pictures at like this wonderful creek, and I just love just like nature in general, and I just love watching the water go down and hearing the water, except when you got to use the bathroom. But I just love that type of stuff. It's really awesome to
Yeah,
me.
it's
But yeah.
important. I think it's important, right? Yeah, I think so. We got to do that.
Gotta take care of this planet too. But
That's right.
how did you get introduced to voiceover? Because I know you went on to Broadway and stuff. So how
Yeah.
did that get introduced to you?
Well, I think as an actor, like I never anticipated making any money. I just assumed I would be cater waitering or doing some other job and acting on the side. Uh, that most of the actors that I knew were like that. The few of them that were successful actually just that's all they did is work, and I was always amazed by that. How were you doing that, surviving just on the work by itself? Um, and I remember being a cater waiter and having an audition for Lion King and finding out that night where I had a gig. I got my polyester, cater waitering suit on, and I got a call from my agent saying, "You booked it. You're going to start your Broadway rehearsal next week." And I thought, like, I couldn't believe it. I was in a daze, and I went to the gig. It was a bar back that night at some big event, and I was just all kind of just a zombie. And someone was like, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" I went, "I'm in the Lion King." He's like, "Okay, Rick. Yeah, good. Like, let this guy go home. He's out of his mind." Uh, and I realized it changed everything. I had like all this debt from graduate school and all that. It went away in like 6 months, gone, and suddenly I had no debt. I mean, I didn't plan on any of this happening. And then I started doing on-camera commercials because it was just another thing as an actor you do. If you put kind of all of your eggs in one basket, like I'm only going to do Broadway theater, well, that could be a tough life. What if you don't get a gig? You are unemployed. As soon as that show is over, no matter how successful it was, you're unemployed. It's not like being a dentist. You always have a job, or an accountant. You always got a job. You're constantly in a state of unemployment until you get that gig. So I tried to put my finger in as many pies as possible. So I'm going to act over here. I'm going to cater waiter over here, and I'm going to do on-camera commercials over there. And one of the things I thought to do was voiceover. I thought, listen, I'm in the Lion King. I play a bird and a pig and a meerkat. I must be able to do cartoons, right? I must be able to do all that stuff. And I think I could. I just didn't realize that if you meet the people, and I know you have, who do those voices regularly, they're beasts. What they can do with their instruments, the facility they have, I have untold respect for that. I can't do what they do. I can do my little pocket of tricks, but what some of those people can do, like James Arnold Taylor and Steve Blum, some of these people that you've met, these people are giants. What they can do. I mean, it's um, Rachel Butera. These people can do things with their voices that are spectacular. I can't do all that, but I can do one thing, you know. And I remember I had an audition, my first audition for a promo. I didn't even know what a promo was. I'm like, oh, Rick, you got an audition for a promo? Cool. What sort of thing is that? And they said it's like a commercial for a TV show. I went, okay. And I went in the booth, and the booth director said, "Hey, Rick, do it like Scar." I played Scar in The Lion King. He said, "Do it like Scar." I went, okay. And I booked it. And I was the voice for a TV show on HBO called The Wire. That's what it was called. And I would just go, "The Wire, tap in," right? Like, only on HBO. Like that's all I would have to do. And, you know, it was just another thing. I was never like looking for voiceover come to me, but it was just another thing to do. And I realized this was another big moment for me when I realized that voiceover and stage acting and commercial acting, while they have kind of different tools you have to use, it's all storytelling. And you can use one, like the skills from one in the other. And if you learn a lot about one of those things, the rip effect on the others is there. So it's not like you have to learn all new things for each. It's all storytelling. So that's how I feel. I love all storytelling. I love puppetry because it's storytelling. I love watching dance because it's storytelling, and great singers are story. That's what I'm after. Good stories. That's what I'm interested in.
Good stories are amazing and are super important, and if it doesn't have like a good story and it looks good, it doesn't appeal to me. You know what I mean? Have you
I
ever seen
do.
that where, yeah, like if it just looks nice, it's like a car with like a bad mileage. You know what I mean? It's a nice car, but the mileage is
Yeah.
atrocious.
Right.
Don't get that, you know. So I'm big into that too, and I've written some stories, but you know it's really important to make it grounded and make it emotional for people to feel something. And you know you've done a great job with that. Like I said, you're Thor. We're gonna get into that. Legendary, freaking legendary. Y'all can fight me on that. I don't care. Legendary. Like you really brought Thor to life. You know what I mean? Through your portrayal, and it made the story so much more amazing. And
Oh, thanks.
yeah, how would you say you've grown as a VA through the years of doing this?
I think I have. I think I've learned from people that have been there before me. I have watched what they've done. Um, you know, I made I made so many mistakes doing voiceover. I have embarrassed myself time and time again, and it's one of the reasons I started teaching, so that other people didn't make the same mistakes, and that maybe you can go further and get higher places faster if you didn't make the mistakes I made. Uh, but I did. I finally, learned to pay attention to people and see what they do. And boy, I've been around some great people. Like I got to do an episode. I got to do an episode of Scooby Doo, you know, and Scooby Doo. I got to be a villain on Scooby Doo. I didn't get to say the line, every villain wants to say, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. Didn't get to say it, but I got to work with these giants in the industry, and I got to learn just by watching and sitting next to them, and hopefully through osmosis, absorbing a little bit of what they've got going on. Um, but I think I learned to be more patient. I think I learned to stop trying to impress everybody and just tell the story. You know, it's sort of like if you have a cupcake and the cupcake has a layer of frosting on it, and then M&Ms, and then strawberry laces, and then a slice of pizza and a hamburger. And, after a while, you could slide all that stuff off and just see what the cupcake is made of. That's the foundation. That's what's good. That's what you want to eat. The rest is just frosting and gravy and accessories and jewelry.
And diabetes.
Right, and diabetes. You just want to get down to what's at the essence of it, which to me, like I keep saying, is good storytelling. So, you know, through insecurities, I'm always wondering, like, am I doing it right? Do they like me? Will they hire me again? Hey, let that stuff go. Wipe that off your cupcake. you know, just be you. I think that's my biggest lesson, is that it's good enough just to be you. It's not even good enough. It's perfect. Like, you are the perfect version of you that you got. And all you have to do is embrace that. If you could just embrace it. That's my message to everybody. Embrace yourself sooner. Step away from the idea. Divorce yourself from the idea that you have to be anything other than what you already are. Oh, I can see that there's a better version. No better version. You are you. You are you where you are right now. You will change in several years, because everyone does. But you're the perfect you are now. And that's valuable. And someone will love it. Someone's going to love it. That's what I always liked about those British comedians, Monty Python. At the time, this group of comedians, they didn't tell the sort of jokes that everybody was telling. It's a very different kind of humor. But they made this pledge to each other to write the sort of humor that made them laugh. And they knew at some point someone else would find it funny too. And they did, So you may not sound like me, or you may not sound like Steve, or you may not sound like Don. You sound like you, and that's perfect. And someone will love it. Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank my mother. And
No, that's an amazing message to have. That's a perfect. I don't think I could have heard it any better. Like, that's not just for acting in general. That's a perfect lesson in life, period. Like, just embrace who you are and stop the comparison BS. Like, just embrace who you are as a human. And I've always struggled with that, because I've had insecurities. Like, through this, like, I feel like I know you. Like because we have a lot in common. We've gone through a lot of similar experiences. I haven't done the acting part. Well, actually, I have. But it's I've always struggled with that, because you always see like someone with the nicer car or the nicer house or the nicer job, and you're like, you want that, and you downplay yourself, and like we were talking about earlier, it's a journey. Life is a journey. Things are gonna happen. Things are gonna change. It's a beautiful story that is your life, and it's your life to live. So stop trying to be someone else. It's
right.
not worth it.
That's right. That's right. It's constantly unfolding. It's constantly changing. You never know what's around the corner. You might as well just learn to love what you got. Really. I know that I've always wanted to be taller and prettier and more talented and this and that and richer and funnier. There's always something to want. Always. And the sooner you can just let go of that stuff, I think you will find happiness.
Truly. To speak about the voice acting thing, what is your favorite voice acting warm-up? Because I know for some of the tougher, like, soldier roles, like big character roles, that takes a toll on your voice, and you have to get your voice ready. So what's your favorite one?
I think technically the things that work best for me are, I don't do tongue twisters. I do these rhythmic poems. It's almost like rap, but if I can chew through these things, I can pretty much say anything. I think breath control is important too. So I do some maybe breathing exercises. Humming is really good to get the mucus off your vocal folds, which sounds disgusting, but it's something you got to deal with, right? You don't want to be like talking and it sounds like you got a gullet full of snot. You got to get rid of that. So, but I'll be honest with you. For the most part, I don't warm up. I don't warm up because voiceover is a performing art, right? Like singing, dancing, acting. It's a performing art, and performing arts are subject to trends. There are trends in music, right? Music sounds different now than it did 50 years ago. Same thing with acting. Look at a black and white film and look at today's movies. Feel very different. The style's different. Singing's different. Everything's different because it's got trends. Well, the trend for voiceover right now is like highest authenticity. It's like anti-acting. They just want you to sound as natural and authentic as possible. Well, the more I warm up, the more I sound like a voiceover actor. Like my voice is round and crisp, and I'm chewing on every word, using melodies no human person would ever use. And they don't want that. No one wants that anymore. Well, maybe a few people. So I don't warm up. So I can sound textured, and I sound like me. This is how I sound. This is how I sound when I talk. And hopefully I can take this sound and bring it right into the booth and record it. Because that's the trend right now. So, with almost everything I record, it always says on the script, conversational, natural, real, authentic. And so my first thought is, I better warm up for that. No, that's how I sound now. Now, listen, there's plenty of reasons to have to warm up. like if you do have a lot of mucus, or if you can't get your air underneath you to support you, or if your articulator's a little sloppy, you can't get your words enunciated well enough, right? Like things, there's reasons to warm up. But if you don't have to, I don't. That's what I do.
That's one thing that's always been interesting. That's really cool about hearing about the trend in voice acting now, because when you did earlier the sort of like superhero voice, like up in your chest like that, like I always think that you have to go for that, but a lot of the times when I hear voice actors more recently, it's like you said, it's more their natural voice with little tweaks here and there, but it's more just their natural human self and just them talking. So I don't think they have to do a lot of voice warm-ups. But one character I think that you would have to do a lot of voice warm-ups for that you played was the Incredible Hulk in the Planet Hulk movie. Now, I remember watching that and watching Hulk beating the living crap out of Beta Ray Bill and being freaked out, like, what is going on with my mother in the living room. But I love that movie. Such a good film. And you did great with the Hulk. And I really loved your performance as that character, because you just brought this sort of I'm trying to put my words to it, but you brought sort of this like lostness to the character, because he is on a different planet. Like he's not on Earth. He's on Sakaar.
That's
fighting,
right.
Like I said, being a Beta Ray Bill. So you did perfect with that. And I wanted to ask you, what was your reaction to being cast as this iconic character? Because I'm pretty sure this was your first Marvel character, right?
Yeah. It was pretty amazing. I mean, I didn't really understand. The only reference for Hulk that I had in my life was Lou Ferrigno in the TV show with Bill Bixby in the 70s. That's all I knew. That's all I knew about the Hulk. I had never read a comic, which, by the way, I'll tell you, when we had the premiere in LA, there was dueling premieres in New York and in LA at the same time. And I went to the LA premiere, and afterward there was a Q&A, and like the head of Marvel was sitting next to me and the director was over here, and someone had a question in the audience. The people in the audience was peopled with folks that hadn't bought a ticket. These people had won or earned tickets through expos and conventions and festivals. They had green faces and green gloves on. They lived this life. And someone's like, I got a question for the voice. I'm like, oh God, here it comes. In Red Hulk 206, why do you, oh God, I mean, I don't know anything. I know nothing. And I'm looking around and I just say, listen, I've never read a comic book. And like the place went quiet. Like there was this hush. And I thought, I'm gonna get jumped. I'm not gonna make it out of here alive. And I think I saved myself by mentioning, like, by the way, everybody know I am the voice of The Walking Dead. Like, you know, tonight on The Walking Dead, only on AMC, right? Like I thought, if I do that, I'll be saved. And I think it saved me. But really, I had no experience of it. I didn't know anything about it, which I think was good, because I wasn't married to anyone else's performance. I wasn't thinking, well, I got to do it like this. Listen, the people that do the voice of the Hulk, Fred Tatasciore does the Hulk a lot, and he is another one of my heroes. I love him, and he's the greatest guy in the world. I mean, he's really a super talent and a superhuman being. No one's going to match that Hulk. It's incredible for its power that he has and this roar that he can do. I've never heard anything else like it. So luckily, this story is about Hulk going to a planet where he is no longer the biggest and strongest. I mean, that's what Hulk is about, being the biggest, but he's not. Here's a planet where he's not. And now he has to rely on his brain and his heart. And I thought, I can do that. I know what this is. I got this. So this is sort of like the sensitive Hulk, the emotional Hulk. And there wasn't a whole, I mean, yeah, I have to roar and tear a dinosaur in half or whatever, but most of it was just me talking, like, I don't know why I'm here. Like I could just be me. And the best thing was, usually, like when we did Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, all of the Avenger voices were in the room. There's like 26 mics in the room, and we're all recording together. So I'm Hulk. I mean, I'm Thor. Tatasciore is across the room from me as Hulk. And if we have a scene in the Avengers mansion, we can really square off and really talk to each other, which is wonderful. And that experience is great. It's communal. We're all with each other. But for Planet Hulk, it was about him being alone, him being banished because he was just too much of a pain in the butt for the Avengers. They just send him away. And so I got to record it by myself. I was isolated. in an isolation booth with the lights turned down. I couldn't even see the director through the glass, and I felt alone. And that is right. That is the way that thing needed to be recorded. So I think everybody did a tremendous job on the production team setting that up. Because if it was me in the room with a whole bunch of people, that performance wouldn't have come out.
I get that because there's so many energies, like you're bouncing off of each other. And when we talk about Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes and how like all the Avengers voice actors were in the same room, you guys are bouncing off of each other's energy, like you said, with you and Fred. Y'all, like when Thor and Hulk are in the same room, right there you could be like, oh,
that's right,
Havati or something. He's like,
that's right,
he's screaming at you. But for that role, like you said, when you're squared off alone in a room, lights dimmed, really sets the mood of,
that's
of
right.
the film. Yeah,
it does. It does. I think it really makes a difference.
What's your most oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What's your most memorable moment recording for Planet Hulk?
Oh, let's see. My most memorable moment. Oh, I know what it is. So when you do animation or when you do video games, very often they will catalog a whole bunch of different efforts, like lifting something up. Okay, Rick, you're lifting up something heavy. All right, it's heavier. No, it's heavier than that. Right, so you catalog all these sounds. Someone hits you in the face. Harder. Right, so they have all these sounds. So we're doing Planet Hulk and we're cataloging some efforts, and they went, okay, so you hit someone, or they hit you back, or you pick up a boulder and you throw it, and getting all these, and like, there's a fire-breathing sort of Tyrannosaurus Rex. You're tearing it apart with your hands. Let's get a couple of those. What? Oh, like I know what that sounds like. Like, oh, sure. Yeah, we learned that in grad school. The tearing it apart. Yeah, sure. No idea. So there was a lot of yelling and screaming, but really a good time. I mean, we really had fun doing it. The days doing all the efforts were very memorable. And, you get in the studio knowing that you're just going to scream your brains out all day. Don't worry about thinking about the lines and what the lines mean. There are no lines. We're just going to be screaming today. And it can be therapeutic. There were some people I was thinking about whilst screaming, so I got a lot out.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to T.C. Carson, who's the voice of Kratos in all the older God of War video games. I remember he was talking about some when he had to like scream or like anger. He said that was very therapeutic because
absolutely
there was a lot on his mind on that day, a lot of anger. So it really helped when he got in the booth and he was screaming like, "Oh, killing the gods and stuff."
It's true.
Really cool. What's your favorite plot point from Planet Hulk, or the most intriguing part to you?
My favorite part was, I mean, first of all, I just loved the whole conceit of the story that he's been banished. Like they knock him out and they stick him on a rocket and like, get him out of here. He's just too dangerous. And he wakes up. And I don't think he is supposed to wake up. I think he's supposed to wake up on this planet where there are no people for him to hurt. Like just a place where he can just go nuts. I think that was the idea. But instead he wakes up and of course he's like, what's going on? Why am I here? And has a little freak out and starts smashing the equipment, and it takes the rocket off course. And now he lands on a place where, like I said, he is no longer the biggest and strongest. I love that. What a very smart way to kind of continue the Hulk story by taking fish out of water and putting him in this environment. I think that's brilliant, because otherwise it's just going to be another event, another story of, Hulk beating up a bad guy. But this was great. This is a very smart way to deal with it.
I love the Planet Hulk storyline. I wish they would have made a World War Hulk movie, which is have you heard about that? The World War Hulk?
I have heard about it, but I know virtually nothing about it. But I'll tell you this, if they haven't, they likely will.
They haven't made an animated movie in a while, but I mean, TV shows and animation are just growing at an exponential rate. I mean, we have Disney Plus now.
That's right.
Netflix, Hulu, like these streaming services need content. And since Marvel owns Disney Plus and Hulu, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get an animated something sooner or later. But World War Hulk is when he comes back to from Sakaar with like his army and just goes ham on Earth, and the Avengers have to defeat him. So I would love to see a movie like that. But Planet Hulk would do. Love that movie. I need to buy the Blu-ray if they have it one day. Another iconic character, Thor. I have to talk about Thor because, like I said, you're the voice for Thor, in my opinion. Like, I know Travis Willingham has done his voice and a lot of. Just, I love your Thor. Like, I really do. I grew up
By
with
the
you and
way,
Thor.
Travis is Thor. I mean, the dude is 12 feet tall. I mean, he's Thor. When you know, when I walk in the room, I'm a little Thor. I'm just this little dude. Uh, but Travis is brilliant. He's a super good guy too. Uh,
You've met
but yeah,
Travis
Thor was
before?
one of, what's that?
Have you met Travis before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. And I actually, you know, because when he played Thor, I'd been back on that show not to play Thor, but to play another character. So I saw him then. But we used to do video game stuff together. Um, I can't remember the name of the company. I feel terrible. But anyway, we, you know, like Call of Duty, that kind of stuff, in all those games. And uh, but I think because I had met some Marvel people doing Hulk, they thought, well, now we've got this series coming up, maybe you'll be Hulk in this. But they definitely wanted a sort of more classic, not the emotional Hulk. They wanted classic Hulk smash kind of thing. So they got Tadashore. And then they thought, well, while you're here, you want to read a little Thor? I went, sure. And I said, well, what's your idea? And they went, well, he doesn't have to be British, but he should be Brit-ish. I went, okay, I get that. And then I played him like he was just kind of like a big Boy Scout. You know, that's my kind of idea that you know, it's all about honor and pride and respect. And he's got this real code and sort of Shakespearean in his, not just his size, but in the scope of his feelings. Like he never feels like a little disappointed. It's always like, oh, you know, it's always the worst. And the same thing with joy. Joy is not like great. It's always yes. You know, it's huge. You know, exhilarating, exuberant feeling. And the same thing with, you know, being angry is huge feeling. So in that way, these are epic feelings, and he's an epic guy. God, you know, he's a god. So yeah, that was exciting. And so I got a chance to do that. And that was super, super fun. When we were recording that, my wife was pregnant with our first child. And there's a great picture of a lot of those people who record the voices in that show. They have been waiting to do this their whole life. Like they love Marvel and they love superheroes. Listen, I love it too, but I don't know very much about it. I really don't. I didn't grow up playing with those toys, watching the cartoons, reading the comics. I just didn't. I was putting on makeup and other stuff. So, practicing magic. So a lot of those people, when they were not up at the mic performing, they were sitting down and reading comics. Like they were in it, you know? So there's a picture of me and like 3 other people, and they're reading comics, and I'm reading like a baby book, like a baby manual. Like, how do I do this? Changing a baby, swaddling a baby. So that's what I was doing during the whole thing. And I have to say, listen, I'm not disappointed because everybody's got their own path, but my children are now 11 and 9, and we now have Disney Plus, and they have no interest at all in watching any of my, like I said, hey, we got Disney Plus now, watch. Earth's Mightiest Hero. I just want to show you, like, listen to that. You know who that is? Yeah, it's you. Do you know who I'm playing? Thor. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Like, they have no interest at all. I thought one day my kids will go in the schoolyard and say, my dad was Thor, my dad was Hulk. They could care less. You know, I'm just dad doing goofy voices. In fact, I had a conversation with Jim Cummings about this once, that when I would read to my kids like bedtime stories, I'd put on voices, of course, right? So like the big bad wolf came up and said, little pigs, right? I'd do little voices, and my kids would regularly go, Dad, just read it, please. I don't need all the voices.
That's so funny to me because literally every voice actor, I think back to a story D. Bradley Baker said in an interview I was watching, he did with Steve Bloom or something. He said, you know, I'd read bedtime stories to my kids and I'd do it in my voice, and then he would be like, my kids were so freaked out they wanted me to stop. And
well, like, D can do some things with his voice that would certainly freak you out. That is true.
No, D. Bradley Baker is one of the greatest voice actor. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like these guys are monsters. I mean, just amazing beasts in the industry.
Yeah, I just think that's really funny that like every voice actor that has like read bedtime stories to their kids and like voices, their kids are immediately like stop it or they don't care. I think it's crazy how like some of the kids don't care because if my dad was the voice of Thor, I'd be like,
do Thor, yeah.
Yeah, my dad's the voice of Thor. What you got? You know, like I just flexing that off. But like most of these kids, like you said, are just like, you know, yeah, I guess you voiced Thor.
I'm just dad. I'm just dad. I'm the dad who doesn't let them play another hour of video game. Like, guys, that's enough. They don't care if you're Thor or not. They're like, oh, great. Yeah.
But how did you create the voice for Thor?
Yeah, so, you know, it's always a collaboration. We start with, you know, they'll first of all, he's male. I got that. I know what that is. They said that, you know, he's heroic. By the way, you also can look at the physiognomy of the guy. Look at him. Look at the size of him. He must sound the way he looks. Thor can't talk like this, right? It doesn't fit. So it's got to fit. It's got to make sense. You got to look at that and go, yeah, he could probably sound like that. Then I think of things like, is he healthy or is he unhealthy? Is he charismatic or is he awkward? Is he intelligent? Is he wise? Is he educated or is he not? Right? Is he empathetic? Is he compassionate? Is he heart-centered or is he powered more by physical strength as opposed to right? So all of those things I just take into consideration as opposed to I'm going to make my voice this depth. I'm going to speak this fast. I don't really think of it technically like that. I think of it in terms of story. I always tell my clients this. I hate giving notes. Like if I'm directing a commercial or directing a promo, I don't like saying go faster. No, go slower. Because then what will happen is the artist will very often mechanically slow down how they're talking or just mechanically make it sound faster. But there's no storytelling in there. It's just kind of faster, slower. Like you could put it in like a DAW, like a digital audio work station and kind of just mechanically make it faster or slower. But I'm not after that. So I always say, imagine if I want them to be faster, I'd say, imagine what you're saying to the person you're talking to in the story in your mind is about to leave. They got to go soon. And what you have to say is very important. Now go tell them. And now you will tell them faster because you have to, because you have a reason to, as opposed to, I've just got to say it faster because they say it faster. That's no good. Or say it slower because what I'm about to say is the most important thing you will hear all year. Now you will say it slower, right? For a reason, not just slower because I said go slower. So I've always worked in terms of storytelling as opposed to technical, mechanical direction. That's how I built all the voices I've done.
That's really cool. That's the process to creating voices that I've heard is so intriguing to me, like how they break it down and do a deep dive into the character and just try and break down where this character is coming from. I recall an interview with I don't know if you know who Crispin Freeman is, but
sure,
he did the voice of Itachi and Naruto and stuff, and Young Justice. Oh, he was on Avengers Earth Mighty series. He was Ant-Man on that show. But he said that to properly do a character, he has to know psychologically where that character is coming from. Otherwise, he can't do it. He has to know where the character is coming from or what place in their life they're at. I just think that's so awesome. Like, that's really cool.
First of all, these characters were written spectacularly well, and they were written with the psychology in mind, not just battling in mind, and not just what costume they're going to wear in mind, but there's a real psychology to who they are and why they are. They do have a backstory that you can really get a foothold in. You know, it's not like you don't have to guess that there's real background. And also, you know, when you're talking about doing a deep dive into like the backstory of a character, well, truthfully, you can't remember all that stuff every time you say a line, right? So the idea is to find imagine where their tracks are. Like if you're skiing in deep snow and the character sort of makes tracks, I can't clock every single place those tracks have been. But what I could try to do is get myself in those tracks and kind of take the ride along with them, because I can't memorize. And even if I could memorize every single story point, no one can. No one can remember everything that that character's ever been through, every show, every villain they've conquered. You just have to know what they're after, what motivates them. Why do they want what they want? How do they treat people? You know, what fuels them? That's about it. No, you don't need a lot more than that. The rest is really just playing. I always say, because I coach voiceover, I always say that voiceover should be done in 3 phases: work, play, and review. The work phase is all the rehearsal and research, the deep dive you're talking about. You do all that work so you have the luxury of going into that second phase, play. Now I'm really gonna play. I'm not kidding. I mean, I get in the booth and I have a good time. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play with all the things I've already worked on. I don't have to think anymore because I've already done all my research. I've already done all the work. Now I get, like, if it was a play, I do all my research, I do all my rehearsal so that on opening night, I can play. I'm not thinking about what's that monologue in Act 2. I got that. I've already done the work. So, yeah, like I said earlier, storytelling is storytelling. If you do it behind a mic, you do it on stage, in front of the camera, it's all the same stuff.
Do you have a tick to get into the character of Thor, like a phrase, word, or something?
Yeah, I do. For the show, I would either say like "Avengers, assemble," or I would say like "Mjolnir to me." I love that hammer. I just think it's great. He's a superhero with a hammer. It's great. Everybody's got, this guy can do this. This guy, this, he's got a hammer, which I think
One
was
guy has a metal frisbee, so I think
right. That he's got metal frisbee. Nice tights.
But I love Avengers Earth Mighty series. That cartoon, like I said, I grew up on a major part of my childhood, and I was extremely, still to this day, I'm extremely mad that show got canceled. And I just want to ask you, do you know what happened? Any of the backstage dealings? Like, what happened there?
Nope, I had no idea. And I think the healthiest thing you could do is sort of let all that stuff go. I mean, it could be interesting for someone like you or people that are fans or that are interested in the show to find out like what happened, why did it go away? But as a performer in it, it's not important for me to know. I almost don't want to know. Like, what if we found out the whole thing went south because of Thor? Like, I don't want to know that. You know, as much as possible, I love to create the aesthetic where here's the art, you know, the work, and here's the administrative part. Here's the politics. Here's the business. I don't want to know anything about it. I really don't. If my agents can take care of something, this is why they get a commission. You go take care of all that stuff. There's no art. I'm going to come in. I'm going to go tell her the best story I can. That's my job. Everything else, I leave. The same thing like with studio. Like, I'm going to come in here and do the best promo, the best animation, whatever, the best, whatever I can do. I don't want to think about the microphone and how it connects to the interface. I don't care. I mean, I think it's good to know that stuff, but I ultimately, at the end of the day, that's not what I'm after. So I'm happy to pay George or someone to come take care of that for me so I can do my work.
I do think, though, however, we see shows that got canceled all the time come back, like Young Justice came back for DC, Clone Wars came back on Disney Plus for a season. I would love to see this come back in some form or fashion. Just let us know, because there are a lot of you said you didn't know if it got canceled, but there are a lot of plot details that they were going to go into season 3. Like, they were going to bring in the X-Men. It's going to be very X-Men heavy. I'm an X-Men guy. Steve Lumen's amazing as Wolverine, so let's do it. I was really excited. We're gonna go to like the Skrulls and stuff. Well, they already did the Skrulls, but I think we're gonna go more to like the space aspect of the show, and that just sounded so cool to me. And then we got Avengers Assemble, which I like, but I don't know. I just missed the original cast. Of course, Fred came back, but Thor changed. Eric Loomis wasn't Iron Man anymore. Brian Bloom wasn't back as Cap. It's Roger Craig Smith, who I love Roger, no diss to him, but I just really loved Brian as Captain America, and I was really upset when I found out that you guys didn't come back. I was mad when I heard Thor and I didn't hear you. I was like, who is this dude? I mean, I like Travis, but
Brian Bloom, by the way, I should say. Listen, there's tons of attractive people in that cast, but Brian Bloom is the only guy who looks like his character. Like, none of us look like our character, but Brian, yeah, you put a shield in that guy's hand, he's done. He's got this, you know. Good group, really good group of people. We really had a good time. And when it comes to animation, especially superhero animation, this was new for me. I'd never been in a series. So my first series was as Thor, you know, I mean, yeah, it was a lot for me. And they embraced me right away. I think the notion was like, I'm a promo guy, the voice of AMC for 15 years. You know, that's what I do. And now here I am walking in, gonna, you know, start doing dialogue with people. But, you know, I'm an actor, and they embraced me and they made me feel like I was just as good as anyone else. What was the thing I used to get teased on a lot? Oh, Thor doesn't say no. He says nay. So they used to joke all the time. They used to say, I'm like a horse. I'm always nay, nay. There's a lot of that. And it was a really good opportunity to practice my magic. Every time we took a break, I have an audience, all the Avengers standing around me. Hey, let me ask you something. Cap, take a card. And here we go. So that was fun.
Do you still stay in touch with the cast? Or
here and there, you know? I mean, for a while I used to go running with Black Panther, and you know, just some folks and I would stay in touch. But you know, really, it was only when you would run into each other. And you know, as time goes by, there was less and less of that because everyone started doing their work from home, or, you know, or the pandemic happened. And so, no, I think for the most part, voiceover is a fairly lonely career. And only recently has it become more of a social thing, because there's like conventions and expos and you know, for a while I was directing for Blizzard Entertainment. So I'm World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. And so like the first person I got to direct in a video game was Fred. Fred Tatasciore was the first guy I got to direct.
What?
So when we got to see each other, it was like, hey! And we had a ball, you know? And then D came in, and I got to direct D, which you don't really have to direct D. He's just gonna do his thing, and he's brilliant. And you just sit down and pat yourself on the back like, brilliant directing here. No, just let D do whatever he does. But yeah, don't really see anybody anymore.
It makes me sad. You're going.
It is a little sad.
No, because it's like, oh my gosh, because you know, I always had this idea before interviewing people. I just voice actors. I always had this idea that you guys are always together, like in a big room. But then people inform me that they're like, hey, Josh, no, that's not really that. You know, there's ensemble recordings, but for the most part, we're in a booth recording for video games alone, just with the director and the engineers, and we're just doing our thing. And I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't like that. It's not together. I don't like that. But it makes sense because, you know, directors have specific things they want specific people to do. And if you're all in a room, you're hearing each other, you know, that's going to be a lot to take out and stuff like that. So I remember Roger Craig Smith was talking to me about when he was recording on Avengers Assemble, he would say a line as like, Cap, and he'd be like, Thor don't do, and then he'd stop, and then Travis would pick up and be like, I'm going to do whatever I want, like if they're interrupting or whatever.
Yes, so, that's right.
To technically make sure that, you know, it doesn't like cross like that. So I think that's really interesting how that side of the business works, because it is kind of sad and lonely. It's like y'all are in this big booth and
it's true.
What is the most fun you've had voicing Thor in the video games? Because I said you did him in Marvel Heroes. You did him in Marvel vs. Capcom. You did him in Ultimate Alliance 3. A ton of stuff. What was the most fun you've had voicing that character?
I know that. I mean, I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about. I never know, because you know, you were always signing those non-disclosure agreements. But I have recorded. I'm not gonna say when, but I have recorded Thor stuff where he's not the same Thor as he used to be. He's changed. He's a version of himself, and he's got like an attitude. And that has been really fun to kind of explore. Because like I said before, he's always been a bit of a Boy Scout for me, you know, upright. And you know, it's almost like Bizarro Thor. Like you can kind of play with his, and so that has been really fun. You know, any opportunity to try something a little different is great. And different directors will allow you to kind of try different things. So, you know, it's never always just the same person you're working with. So that's been real exciting. And I think, for better or for worse, because I have, like I said, very little experience with the Marvel world. Like I didn't really understand how big that universe is and how deep it goes and the appreciation that people have for it. Because I don't know very much. I only know the pertinent stuff, just enough to get me through the story. I think has been of benefit for me. Like I don't feel the shadow of storylines over me. I just tell the story that I know, and I think sometimes that produces a very clean, honest, clear performance, and that's satisfying to me.
Rick Wasserman is coming back in story, y'all. Somebody write an article right now. Right now. Credit me.
Yes,
He just
yes.
told me he's coming back
Call
in story.
call Marvel, make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, man. Love hearing what, like I said, I love your Thor, and no disrespect to Travis. I just prefer you over Travis. Love Travis. Love to speak to him one day, but I love your Thor forever and always. And
Oh,
if
thanks,
I hear
man.
you back as Thor, that's a good day in my book. So, I'll be having
that's
a good
very
day
kind.
that day. But for, a cool thing that I found out is that in Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, you voiced, like, Absorbing Man and, of course, Surtur. Amazing character. And I was just wondering, what's it like? Because sometimes those characters will share scenes. Obviously, Surtur is Thor's villain. Absorbing Man, I saw a clip of him and Thor going back and forth. He
That's right.
absorbed Mjolnir. What is it like having to record those scenes where it's just kind of you talking to yourself?
It's great. Everybody sits down. They all start staring at you if they're interested. Like, okay, how are you going to deal with this? And I've done it both ways, where you do all one voice, and then you go back and do all the other voice, and then they kind of splice them all together. But I've also done it where you just go back and forth. Hey, what? Come over here. No, you're doing both kind of at the same time. You know, there are some people like Roger and all these guys who I'm sure do it regularly. But for a guy like me who doesn't, it's a challenge, and it's super, super fun. You feel like you're a little bit crazy. Um, and of course, the thing to remember is the technical side, all the editing that will go on. So it's not like you have to do it in real time. You don't have to go, hey, what? You don't have to. You could say your line, take a moment, refocus, say the other one. But I find the more momentum you can kind of build, right? Then you kind of get like a flow, like you and I. If you and I keep talking, there's kind of a flow of conversation. I talk and you talk and I listen and you listen. We have this back and forth. If you fragment it, if someone transcribed everything we were saying and then found two actors and say, okay, play out the Rick and Josh scene. If they staggered it, if it was like
That's
halting, like you say your line and then wait, then you say your line and then wait, you lose a little bit of that flow. So as much as possible, I think that's some of the magic you can get in the room when you have both actors squaring off and talking to each other at the same time, especially when there's a fight involved, and there's frequently a fight in those shows. You're really facing off. Fred and I can really look at each other and and do all that stuff, really looking at each other. That's great. You can't very hard to duplicate that in a room or replicate that, recording one guy one day, recording the other guy another day, and make it feel truly cohesive. Very hard to do.
Absolutely. Now let's switch over from Marvel to DC, where of course you voice Clayface, and I really like your version of Clayface in that show. Video game. I'm all over the place, but I love the Arkham series. Arkham City is considered one of the best superhero video games of all time, like ever. So how does it feel to be a part of that universe? And in such a major way, too, because of that twist at the end.
Yes, that's right. It was great to play Clayface. First of all, he's an actor, so I knew that. That was fun. He's an actor. They also, digitally, slowed down my voice so much that it really could be anyone. I didn't even recognize it. Like, oh, is that me? Oh, okay.
I was about to say, yeah. What did you do with your voice? Because it really sounds different. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, they slow it down. So, I would say it's the role of a lifetime. But when you listen to it slow down, he sounds like he's 900, feet tall. So, there's always some kind of sweetening, some kind of digital magic they put on your voice. But the most fun I had doing any of the Arkham games was just being bad guys. It's so much fun. There's always some conversation going on. Sometimes they let you improv a little bit, which is really fun. But a lot of people started picking up that I was like a henchman, like your henchman 3 and henchman 2 in that game and henchman 1 in that game. And people would show up like, you're in that game, aren't you? yeah, I killed you yesterday. Like, and they're all happy about it. Like, dude, I shot you right in the face. Great. Okay. My kids are right here. You know that? I mean, why would you say that? But it is funny. And also, I think early on, I didn't even know it was Batman because, they don't want to let too much info out. So the auditions were like, hey, you, come here. And then you get into the studio and you finally know that you're going, hey, Batman, come here. And you put the name back in it. Now you know what the game is. There's a lot of hush hush stuff. There's always like, you're doing Project, Q and Project X because they're not letting anybody know what the project is. I have no one to tell anyway, so it's wasted on me, the whole secret nature of it. But that was a lot of fun. And again, tons of stuff to record. There's always it's like a gigantic choose your own adventure story. You have to be able to say something. A character has to say something regardless of what the situation is. If you're armed, if you're not armed, if you've got company, if you don't have company, if it's sunny out, if it's raining out, they've got to have something to say. And they cover all the bases. When those writers must wear out their fingers writing all that dialogue. It's a lot. It is.
Yeah. Clayface in the role he played in the Arkham game was insane. And were you surprised by what role he played, or were you interested? Or
yeah, no, I thought it was. Listen, to me, I don't know anything about Clayface. I really only know as much about Batman from watching the Warner films. Like starting with the Michael Keaton film. Like that's all I know. And sometimes that's all you need to know. You don't have to do some massive deep dive. You don't, because again, you can't carry all that stuff with you. But it was fun. I just take it like it's a new role. Here's what you need to know. You don't need to know anything else. Start from there.
Absolutely. Well, now we're going to transition into the fun part of my interviews called Weird and Wacky, where you have 1 minute to answer a series of weird and random questions. No one has gotten to a record of 15 questions, although the championship holder, Simon Norfleet, has answered a record of 14 questions in 1 minute. Do you think you'd be Simon?
Absolutely not. I yak too much. I don't know if I'll get through 2 questions. I'll do my best.
All right, I'm about to start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Longest time period without taking a shower.
4 days.
Least favorite food.
Walnuts.
Dumbest thing you did as a kid.
Take your pick. Took a tap class.
Least favorite song.
Oh man, I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Almost anything contemporary country.
Movie you wish you were part of.
Clue.
Would you rather fly or run fast?
Fly.
Would you rather get bit or stung by bees?
Bit.
Are you allergic to anything?
Yes, cats and penicillin.
How tall are you?
5'9".
A movie that influenced your childhood.
Same time next year.
And times. You did good. You answered more than you thought. You answered 10 questions.
Hey, okay. Very nice.
Did amazing, Rick. And now I'm gonna go to my final question. I would just like to say this has been the most fun I've had in an interview. I've just really enjoyed getting that.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And know more about you, and I'm really honored to be able to host you, and thank you so much again for coming on. I always end off my interviews with this question: what is your current message to the world during these current times that we live in? Obviously, there's a lot going on. We're still living in a pandemic, even though we're still looking out of it. Laws are being changed. Stuff is going on around the world. What would you say to people who are kind of down and in need of a little boost?
I think the hardest thing that we're going to face is agreeing with each other, coming together. I don't remember ever feeling this fractured or separate from people. And I'm a pretty isolated guy, and I've never felt this isolated before. It's sort of like my family and the rest of the world. So all I can say is, as much as possible, at the very core of who we are, we're just a bunch of animals with a finite time on this planet. So with the time you have, can you leave it better than you found it? Can you reach out and repair as opposed to let things fracture more? We really got one shot at this, you know, and things are as like razor or ice thin as they've ever been. Everything is so sort of sensitive and delicate right now. Everything we have could easily crumble in a way that we never thought it could. So you got to be kind to other people. And I think that starts with being kind to yourself and realizing no matter all the differences we have, we are certainly more alike than we are different. And while we may have differences, just don't focus on those as much. I mean, you can, but I think it's only going to lead to more unhappiness. Just focus on the similarities we have. Like, they love their family and you love your family. They want the best for their parents and their children, and so do you. They want to succeed, and so do you. They want health, and so we're more alike than different. And we should celebrate that sameness while not ignoring our differences, but celebrate our sameness.
Absolutely. Rick, amazing message. Is there anything you want to plug or promote before we head off?
Well, listen, I'll say that if anyone has any interest in learning voiceover, I'm a coach. It's also, like I said, my opportunity to get to reach out to people, to talk to people. So it's good for me too. Bookablevo.com is my coaching website. We coach and we make demos for voice artists. And the booth that I was talking about before is called the Tri Booth, TRIBOOTH, tribooth.com. You can just check it out. You don't have to buy one if you don't want, but you could just check it out. And if you're interested in me or any of the baloney I've been talking about, my website is rickwasserman.com, and you can always check that out. Troll me.
I will leave all that in the comments section down below in the description. I also saw on Behind the Voice Actor that you are a part of Batman The Long Halloween. Can you talk about that?
I don't know anything about it, but it's probably true I am. I'm part of so many projects that I don't even know what they are until they come out. Like, Rick, what was that, Halo project? What? You're in Halo. Am I? Yeah, good. I have no idea. Because like I said, a lot of times when I record it, the project doesn't even have a name yet. I know that I just had we have these little practice sessions where we just practice connecting from home to record animation or video game. I just did one. It's going to be big and important. I have no idea what the project is. I don't have a script. I have no idea what it is, but I know that the connection sounds really good. Maybe I'll talk to you again someday and we'll go, oh my gosh, that was that project you were talking about.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining. Hope to see you guys on my next interview. And Rick, can you close us out with a nice little promo voice?
Sure. Take good care of each other and yourself. Bye-bye.